Part 2 of Devil Wears Prada comes out May 1st, and I have a lot of feelings about it because I have seen this film from two completely different angles. I was Andy, the assistant running herself into the ground, trying to survive in a glossy magazine. And then, years later, I became the other side, a designer showing her collection to a buyer who could make or break everything with one single expression on her face. Most people watch The Devil Wears Prada as a story of a toxic boss. I watch it as one of the most accurate business films ever made. In this video, I want to tell you what the film actually gets right. About working under someone powerful, about what Miranda Priestly is actually doing, about the moment when a buyer looks at your collection and says nothing, and about why that dynamic hasn't actually disappeared. It just moved to your phone. Like a lot of girls who wanted to work in fashion, the first film I watched when I realized I was interested in the industry was The Devil Wears Prada. And like most of them, I identified myself completely with Andy. When I started working in editorial, firstly at Bureau 24/7 and then at Vogue Russia, I understood completely what the film was describing. You don't literally fetch coffee, but the equivalent tasks are everywhere. Choose the right shade of blue from 40 identical blues. Write the news before everyone else does. Be at the event until 2 a.m. in the morning and have the piece filed until 4 a.m. I actually did that one. Covered a fashion night out event in Moscow until 2 a.m. Came home, wrote the article until 4 a.m., got the job done to my editor, and fell asleep at my desk. I woke up at 5 p.m. the next day to a flood of messages. I had missed the morning news cycle. My editor was furious, and I remember thinking like, what does it matter? It's just an article on the website. But it did matter because in digital media, who publishes first affects SEO, affects traffic, affects advertiser trust, and affects the reputation of the whole outlet. My small failure had a chain of real consequences. That's what the film is actually about. Understanding that every task, no matter how absurd it might look from the outside, is actually load bearing. The bring me coffee is never really about coffee. Here's my unpopular opinion. Miranda Priestly is not a villain. She's a professional doing exactly what her job requires. The bosses I had at Vogue were like Miranda. They shouted, they were really harsh, they didn't soften feedback or explain themselves. At that time, I cried about it, but now I understand it completely. Miranda is responsible for a magazine read by millions, for advertiser relationships, for the careers of everyone in that building, and she doesn't have time to wrap every decision in kindness. She is accountable for the outcomes in a way that most people watching the film have never experienced. Now that I run my own brand and manage the team, I understand this from the inside. When you carry the full weight of a project, the number, the reputation, the people, your relationship to time changes completely. You become direct not because you're cruel, but because softening everything is a luxury that you simply don't have. The film frames Miranda as someone to escape from, and I think she is someone to learn from. Not her cruelty, but her clarity, her absolute knowledge of what she wants, her absolute knowledge of what she needs, and the refusal to pretend otherwise. There is a character in the movie who doesn't get enough attention. The designer whose collection Miranda comes to see. He has worked for months. He has a vision, and she walks in, looks at everything, and her expression tells him everything he should know without a word. I have been that person. 10 years ago, our knitwear brand Mir Stores was featured in Russian Vogue in its first season. A queue of 1,000 people, like overnight. We thought this is a formula. We just need to repeat it. So we've put everything into the summer collection, like all the money we had. We sent it to Vogue again, and we got the response that we will pass that time. And that was our Miranda moment. The collection was there, the work was there, and our gatekeeper just looked at it and said, "Not this season." We lost a lot of money. We had no orders for the summer line. And we didn't understand what had gone wrong. And looking back, the collection wasn't bad, but the moment had passed. The editorial direction had shifted, and we couldn't do anything about it. We had built the whole strategy on a single door. And here's what have changed since 2006. Miranda Priestly is no longer one person sitting in a corner office deciding who gets seen. She's millions of people. She is every single person who scrolls past your product, decides in half a second if it deserves a like, a comment, or a share. The Miranda moment, the silent judgment, the expression that tells you everything, now happens thousands of times a day across every platform you're on. And this is both harder and better. Harder because there is no single door to knock on anymore, and better because you don't need any single person's approval. When we released our skier sweater or sheep cardigan, we didn't need a magazine. The audience decided and the orders came directly. The old Miranda was a gatekeeper. The new Miranda is a mirror. She reflects back exactly how your product resonates with real people in real time. And your job now as a brand, as a creator, as someone who is building something, is to multiply the number of Miranda moments you get. Every platform you're on is a room full of Mirandas, and every piece of content is a new single collection on the rail. The more rooms you're in, the more chances you have to hear this. Yes. There's almost nothing I can disagree with in this film. Almost. Andy's friends, her boyfriend, their reaction to her changing, growing, or stepping into a different version of herself, which is more capable and more confident, is framed as something like as her becoming worse, as a bad thing that needs to be corrected. And I don't buy it. When I worked in an editorial, some people around me reacted the same way. Slight mockery, a kind of pulling back when someone started to grow. And I understand it intellectually. It's uncomfortable to watch a person you know step into something you haven't yet accessed yourself. But calling that friendship is a stretch. People change when they do hard, demanding, formative work, and that is not corruption. That's development. A real friend doesn't actually need you to stay exactly as you were.
My neck is hot. Oh my God, just hide a feeling for once, please. I just love my job.
Part 2 comes on May 1st, and whatever it shows, whether Andy becomes Miranda, whether Miranda gets softened, or the whole industry gets unrecognizable, I will be watching. Because for me, this film has always been less about fashion and more about something universal. What it means to do demanding work under demanding people. What it means to be standing in front of people who have power to say yes or no to what you have been building over years. And what it means to be showing up anyway. We all have a Miranda. The question is, what are you gonna do when she purses her lips? Thank you for watching. Katy Be Kind. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and put a link to this video. And be kinder to yourselves. See you later. Bye!